Review for the Unit 3 exam. What is the equation of the line that passes through the point, negative 219, and has a slope of negative 7? Anytime they give you a point and a slope, they're wanting you to use that point-slope equation right up there. So if we take that x1, y1 value and plug in the m value, we just put all of that into the equation, fix any double negatives in the next step, then you're going to distribute and finish by moving the constant over, adding it to both sides. And that gives you the answer B. Now there is a backup method if you do not remember how to do this. You can always go into y equals on your calculator. I know this is kind of hard to see. Let's see right there. So I've got y equals right there for my first equation. I did 5x minus 7. I'm going to press second graph, and I'm looking to see if that point, negative 219, is really on that line. So when I look up, negative 2, negative 17, nope, it's definitely not that one. So now I'm going to check the equation that we already know is the answer. So I'm going to just go ahead and plug that in. Hit second button's right here, graph button's in the top right hand corner. Hit enter, or hit the graph button. And this one does have that point, negative 219. So it has the point, it has the slope, that's why it's the solution. Now in the next question, when they ask you about which of the following equations represents the table, that's when you use that stat edit feature. So I'm going to go into my calculator, I go to stat, edit, I'm going to type in the table just like it looks right there. Then I press stat again, I'm going over to calculate, and we are selecting number 4 for a linear equation. And this is what I get. A is 0.75 and B is negative 8. Now 0.75 is not how we write the slope. So I'm going to come over here and say, okay, we've got 0.75. I want to change that to a fraction, so I'm going to press math, enter, enter. Oops. So math, enter, enter. Oop. There we go. So it is 3/4. That's my A value, that's my B value. So in slope-intercept form, 3/4 minus 8, 3/4 x. Now in the next question, we're talking about slope-intercept word problems. Whenever you're trying to write these equations, you're still going to have a number attached to a letter and then a number all by itself. Well, the one that's attached to the x is the slope. And the way that you can find it in your problem is to look for one of those slope words like each, every, and per. Because if somebody's making $35 per hour, that's a multiplication word right there. It means you're multiplying 35 times the number of hours that they work. So this one would be 35h plus 75. When I wrote my original equation, I was just going in the order that they talked about in the problem, that they work for 75, that one's only charged once, plus $35 per hour. And you can change the order of your numbers and letters, but you do have to make sure that they keep the same signs. Now let's look at number 4. Same idea, but we're starting off with a candle. This is talking about the height of the candle. It starts off with 6, and then from there, it's 6 inches tall. It's burning at a rate of 1/2 inch per hour. Well guys, if this candle is burning, then that means that the height of the candle is decreasing. That's why we've got a negative slope. And it's 1/2 per hour, so it would be multiplied by the number of hours, which is t. Now you can also change the order on these, but make sure you notice, hey, this is a positive 6, so we should still have plus 6 right here. This is negative 1/2 t, so it still needs to be negative. That's why C is the answer. Okay. Number 5. If the graph of f of x equals x is translated down 5 units, what would the new equation of the line be? Well, if you don't ever remember what f of x equals x is, you can just type it into your calculator and hit the graph button. And if we look at this, it's actually starting off intersecting at 0, or the origin. Well, if we took that line and just moved it down 5 units, that means our new y-intercept would be down at negative 5. Now the slope of that line didn't change. We're not going to change that part, so the 1x is still the same. But now our y-intercept is negative 5, so that's why C is the best answer. If you weren't sure, you could have gone into your calculator and compared the original equation that they gave you to the answer choices. Well, if I was looking at x, that's the original problem that they gave us, answer choice A is 5x, and I'm going to hit graph. Well, you can see pretty easily right away that that thing did not shift down, it was just moving around. And we know the right answer is x minus 5. Here's x, there's x minus 5. So it just took that line and moved it down 5 units. Okay, baseball team is selling t-shirts and baseball caps. So baseball caps are B, t-shirts are T. So the first thing you should do is go in and make sure your letters are correct. This one is baseball caps are 35, so it should be 35B. T-shirts are 14, so I should have 14T. And that let me get rid of half of my answer choices right there. Well, they said that they want to make at least $3,000. Well, this is what's representing how much they're actually going to make. So if they want that to be at least $3,000, they want it to be more than $3,000 or exactly equal to $3,000. So that's answer choice C. Now for number 7, this question asks you to find the rate of change, and don't forget that rate of change just means slope. So if they gave you a table, the easiest way to find slope is to use stat edit. And if I did all that, I would get this. My A value is 35, my B value is 45, but notice how both of those are one of the answer choices. The A is your slope. That's the one attached to the X. So I know my answer would be B. Okay, number 8. Remembering about linear inequalities. When you have a line underneath your inequality sign, that makes a regular solid line. When that thing is missing, it's a dashed line. It's kind of like there's little pieces of the line missing itself, and that's why it becomes dashed. So if I'm looking at this first problem, that one is a less than or equal to sign. The or equal to part, that line underneath it, lets me know that this one has to be a solid line. So it's either got to be B or C. Now, as far as the shading goes, this is a less than sign, which means that we should be shading down. Well, if I moved down from the y-intercept on answer choice B, I am not in the shaded area. That's why it's not the solution. But on answer choice C, I start at the y-intercept, and I move down, and I am in the shaded area. That's my solution. Now, the last couple of problems I want to talk about, they ask us, which of the following is the equation of a line that is parallel to f of x and goes through the points 6, negative 5? Well, this line above us is labeled f of x. So they're saying which of the following is an equation of a line that's parallel to this line right here. Well, in order to figure out stuff about parallel and perpendicular, first of all, you have to know the slope. So I'm just going to count rise over run from one perfect point to another. We went down 2 units and over 3. It's negative 2/3. Remember that positive lines increase as they move and negative lines decrease as they move. Okay. So for number 9, if I know that my equation of the line is parallel, that means it has the same slope. So I'm going to use the same slope that we found when we were counting it, and then do the whole point slope equation. I can go over here and I find out my answer is B. Now don't forget about that other method I taught you. If you're not sure whenever you're doing the solving method, you can come over to your calculator and type in the equation the way it looks. Now this is an old calculator, so I can't do the fraction, but it's alpha y equals enter. So I'm just going to type in my fraction, negative 2/3 x, and then I have minus 1. We know that's the solution. So second graph, here's a way that I can double check. Does it have that point 6, negative 5? Well, if I move down, it does, so I know that's the solution. The last one is very similar, but on this one we're looking for a perpendicular line, which is talking about the opposite reciprocal. So if the original slope was negative 2/3, the opposite means ours has to be positive, and the reciprocal part just flips your fraction around. So the 3 and the 2 changes place. This is my new slope. I do the whole point slope formula, and I find my new answer.